have artificial intelligence and machine learning. Then we have, as everyone has been noting, big data, the collection, processing, and analysis of immense amounts of data, which means the datafication of the global economy. Remember, this data is controlled by transnational capital, by the transnational capitalist class, which allows it now, that mass amount of data, everything is datafied on the planet. It allows the ruling groups to use algorithms for new forms of control, new forms of profit making, new nightmare scenarios. Then we have the Internet of Things, and we have blockchain technology, and that blockchain technology is leading to something which is just coming online now, digital currencies. We can debate whether it was right-wing, whether it was progressive, whatever it was that happened at the U.S.-Canada border with the truckers blocking that blocking the border. But here's the thing. The Canadian government responded by freezing the bank accounts of those people, meaning they could not go to the ATM and withdraw any cash. But that is just the beginnings of this new digital currency, which is just coming online now, in the sense that governments can instantly freeze and control who has money and who doesn't have money. We then have automation and robotization, and that's accelerating dramatically, and that has profound implications for everyone on the planet. We have nano and biotechnology given a giant boost by the pandemic, of course, involving big pharma and the medical industrial complex. We have 3D printing. We have quantum and cloud computing and the 5G network. Those are important because all these new technologies need quantum cloud computing and 5G network. We have augmented reality, virtual reality. Of course, we all know about autonomously driven land, air, and sea vehicles. So the point here is that what we're seeing with all of these new technologies as they come online, and as the profound changes are now unfolding, driven by this digitalization, is we have a fusion with this new generation of technologies, of a fusion of new technologies that blur the lines between the physical world, the digital world, and the biological world. And, so you have this new basis for its biopolitical regimes of control. What happened in the pandemic? It allowed the transnational capitalist class to consolidate its grip on the global economy, especially this new block of capital, which really became hegemonic during the pandemic, bringing together three wings of transnational capital. One is the military-industrial complex. The second, of course, are the giant tech companies, which are now at the very core of the global economy. The tech companies are all-powerful. They've got tentacles everywhere. They're at the commanding heights here. And then the third is the global financial conglomerates. And by the way, just 17 global financial conglomerates, and those conglomerates bring together all the different sectors of capital. They control, just 17 of them, $41 trillion, which is more than half of the entire global economy, 17 conglomerates. But so you have this new nexus emerging, what I call the Silicon Valley, Wall Street, Pentagon nexus. That's the new block of dominant capital. Let me go into a little more detail on the digitalization. Again, you cut me off when I'm talking too much, and all of this is in the book. But you have this exponential growth. The so-called sharing economy jumps from $14 billion in 2014 to $350 billion currently. Worldwide shipments of 3D printers jumped from 450,000 in 2016 to nearly 7 million by 2020, and is going to go into the tens of millions in the following years. Let me just conclude that part of data with this. Global Internet Protocol traffic. Okay. That is technical term, a proxy for data flows. That is how we all connected now digitally. It grew from 100 gigabytes per day in 1992 to more than 45,000 gigabytes per second in 2017, and it's expected to surpass 150 gigabytes per second by the end of the year we are in now. In 2019, there were 5.2 billion smartphones on the planet. At this point, 60% of the entire world's population is now linked into the internet, and that's going to continue to approach to 100%. So what happens with the pandemic now? The pandemic comes along, and I still want to talk about that and this biopolitical regime. But let me just conclude with the digitalization, and we can go right into that. That the pandemic has turbocharged this digitalization. It's accelerated converting more and more areas of the global economy and society into digital realms. And it's vastly expanding laborless digital services, telework arrangements, drone delivery, automated. Everything's automated, but it's also restructuring the very nature of work. It's going to lead to more massive expansion of the ranks of surplus humanity, those that are structurally marginalized. It's leading to a reorganization or of a restructuring of the labor process for those of us who still have work. So we're locked into new digital realms, or we are de-skilled and cheapened. There's enormous implications for the vast majority of humanity when these technologies are applied. I'll conclude this point so we can go to the pandemic and the biopolitical regime. That we are seeing this accelerated process of automation on these new technologies. Now, why is it taking place? Well, the transnational capitalist class has two big objectives. The biggest, the thing that drives it, is to maximize profit. Nothing else but that. Maximize profit. And that requires controlling rebellion against that profit making and exploitation from below, but it specifically requires lowering wages and intensifying the control over labor. And so the first generation of globalization involved moving manufacturing to low wage zones, everything we're all familiar with. But it also involved raising productivity, because if you have 100 workers with X productivity, you can eliminate 50 of them by massively introducing machinery and raising productivity. So that's unbelievably accelerated by the current restructuring taking place. And what makes this unique, and I'll conclude this point so we can move right into the pandemic, is earlier waves of technological development in the modern history of capitalism involved whole sectors of the economy becoming obsolete. For instance, before we had cars, we had horses, an industry which had to make carriages, but especially horses, horseshoes, horse rearing, horse maintenance. And that involved millions of people around the world working in that. So we switched from horse-based transportation to automobile-based transportation. And so you have a massive shift in workers of people from the horse-based transportation to the car-based transformation. So the neoliberals tell us now that with this new technology, we're going to have, great high-paid, high-skilled, knowledge-based work, and that's what's going to happen. But actually not what's going to happen. We have algorithms now. We're in a totally new situation with machine learning and automatic artificial intelligence, which involves pattern recognition and complex communication. This involves then two impacts on workers. Those that do manual work, such as in factories, have been and are going to increasingly be automated. But not just there, in fast food, in agriculture, in construction, in mining, in warehouse. And all of this was accelerated in the pandemic. I'd like to give one example because it's so revealing. You have in California is a big agriculture. Agriculture is the number one earner in California. It's a global breadbasket. And then you have large-scale agriculture in Italy. I use these two examples because they're so revealing. And in both these cases, during the pandemic, either immigrants were not allowed in, they were not allowed to go out into the fields to pick the grapes and the vegetables and the fruits and so forth, or the immigrants didn't go because of fear of contagion. So the growers in both Italy and in California, sort of reflecting this pattern, turned to automated pickers. The machines picking grapes, machines picking vegetables, machines picking strawberries. So if even what you would expect to be the most labor-intensive and not susceptible to automation was being rapidly automated during the pandemic, this is across the board. Mining, there are still millions of miners around the world, but if you go to one of the modern mines now, there's more machinery than there is human beings. So that's the one part of it, that manual labor is either is simply automated out of the process. And then the other is professional or knowledge-based or white-collar labor. And you'd think, oh, no, they're going to benefit from all of this. But that's not true. Again, because of pattern recognition and complex communication, the nature of this new technology, a lot of the work that lawyers do, professors, financial analysts, doctors, journalists, accountants, insurance underwriters, librarians, all of us also, we can either be de-skilled or simply replaced by machines. And, look at it like this. I'm a professor. So we had over the last 30, 40 years, the shift to adjunct professors that don't have tenure, don't have any job stability, and 7 out of every 10 courses in the United States is taught by adjuncts, which make basically poverty wages. So that was the first generation of globalization. But now we all started teaching by Zoom online, and many universities also require that we record that and post our lectures. So we're moving towards a situation where also even university classes is moving towards a model in which professors are digitalized out of their profession. So that's what we're seeing, this de-skilling and fragmentation of labor. And I'll just conclude this with this point. The pandemic served as a dry run, right, for how digitalization is going to allow the dominant groups to step up the restructuring of time and space and exercise greater control over the global working class.